Welcome to Backstage with Becca with special guest, D'Lo. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca. On this episode, he's a writer, actor, and comedian whose show To Tea or Not to Tea is currently playing through July 10th at Kirk Douglas Theater in Los Angeles as part of Center Theater Group's Block Party. Please welcome D'Lo. So you had preview weekend for your show this past weekend. What was it like? Was it everything you dreamed it would be? I'm going to get much more into the show later, but to start off, I just want to ask.
It was so good. We're in preview, so like our tech isn't completely lined up, and I'm still working on some stuff. But I thought it went really well. Last night was like it felt way better than Saturday night, but yeah, like it's shaping up real good. We had a really gorgeous talk back. People were like really like feeling it. It was good.
Do you like the part of live theater and live performances where things do change up while a show is in previews? What's that like for you?
Yeah, I like I mean there were some things that we made changes to like over the weekend that we thought were going to be pretty much set in stone, and there might be like mild changes here and there, but so far everything is like really coming together and really looking beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I love about seeing a show in previews. You never know what changes from
Absolutely.
previews to the official premiere.
Mhm.
So you are a writer, actor, and stand-up comedian.
Mhm.
But I read your bio on your website and it said you started out as a poet.
Yep.
So it sounds like you've always kind of been a writer.
Mhm.
But when did you start writing poems and what inspired you to start writing poems?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was probably like 11 or so, and I was really influenced by hip hop. And then I started writing rhymes then, and I was like writing parody songs and stuff like that. Um, and then it was like like certain MCs that I was following, like Public Enemy and Queen Latifah, and I just I was like, I want to be talking about the stuff that I'm passionate about. So I started writing poetry, and poetry was like it was definitely political. It wasn't like I was writing poems about, you know, the sunset. Not that I wouldn't, but it was very like first out like fresh out the gate, it was like more politicized stuff. So when I got to college, I was I was performing more of my poetry, but I was also in a couple of poetry crews, like like groups of people that we wrote poems together. And when I left college, it was like when I came out too, I just continued writing, and I was kind of getting a little bit known for what it was that I was doing. So then what I thought initially I was going to do for a career was become a record producer. Uh,
Oh,
but when I went to New York, I didn't really know how to like, I just was taking gigs
yeah.
because it was for money. And then that ended up turning into stand up, and then that turned in, like there's like,
Yeah, it's viral.
so yeah. So, but it did start with poetry. I still write poems. Poetry is like, I love writing poetry. Probably like, it's probably like one of my favorite things to write out of all the stuff that I write. But I love performing like in live theater or stand up.
Yes. So growing up, it sounds like, did you feel growing up, because I know some of your shows are inspired by your parents, did
Hmm.
you feel growing up like you had the freedom to be who you are and discover who you were? And when did you really start discovering who you were as an artist and as a
Yeah.
person?
I think all of the stuff, like gender wise and artistry wise, I was figuring out the minute that I was like out of the house. I knew I was queer from when I was younger, and like my mother's an visual artist, so it wasn't like art was like so far-fetched for for me or my family or whatever. And then we I yeah, it just all happened in college, and I think that after college it was a deeper exploration because I was also going through like the lack of family support and you know just trying to figure out life as a young person, you know?
Yeah. It, do you have any advice for any, I mean, people in high school, when people discover themselves, like they're young. I don't
Hmm.
think like people, I think people are like, oh, by the time you're 27, you're like a full on adult. And it's like, no, that's still super young. And
Yeah,
a person can still be discovering themselves at that point.
yeah.
So, what advice would you give to someone who maybe isn't quite sure, like, who they are completely yet
Yeah,
and are still trying to discover themselves? Because it's a process.
it is totally a process, and I don't think it stops at 27. It doesn't stop in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s.
That's
Like you're just gonna constantly be rediscovering things about yourself. Like who knows? Maybe at some point I'm not gonna want to perform anymore, and maybe I just want to write. And maybe 10 years after that, I'll be like, you know what? I don't want to write no more. I want to perform again. You know. Um, but I think that for young people, I think that that's the thing. It's like, you know, our economy and our world is like pretty unstable. And so I think that sometimes young people are like kind of like, I think a lot of people would rather stability. And so sometimes it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do this because this is what makes me feel stable. And then they find other ways to like do what it is that they really want to do, you know, while they have that stable income or whatever. And I'm like, yo, to each their own, but don't ever think it's all set in stone. Like our brains are only fully formed at age 26. How the hell are we expecting young people to know what they want? Not even like career wise or job wise or artistry wise, but like in a partner, you know, for their lifelong journey in discovering themselves. You know, like there's so many different things that I feel like, I don't know, like, you know, I was 32 when I got into my long-term relationship, and I was like, who the hell did I think I was at 32 to know what it is that I actually needed? You know what I'm saying? Like as queer people, we're like dealing with, you know, so many other you know, internal, like outwards isms that then we internalize, right? Internalize homophobia, transphobia, queerphobia, whatever you want to call it, that if we haven't worked through at least a huge chunk of that, how the hell are we supposed to know what we need for our emotional self, you know? So so all of that to say, yeah, I just tell young people, take your damn time. Take your damn time. Make sure that you can like stand on your own 2 feet, of course, right? Like don't be uh you know, I hate to use the word lazy because it's not laziness. It's like, you know, do
Comfort from
follow
that.
your passion, you know, follow your passion and, you know, contribute to the world always. But like use the time that you contribute to the world as a way for you to like kind of hone in on what it is that you would like to do for at least the next chapter.
Yeah.
Because maybe that chapter only lasts for 2 to 5 years. And then after that, you're like, you know what? I want another chapter.
Yeah. And I mean, that really speaks to me because I talk to a lot of musical theater performers who are like, yeah, at 17 or 16, I'm starting to audition for like the school across the country. And it's like, how do you like, how, why are we expected to know where we want to go to college at age 17
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
18?
No.
It's so young. You're a
Yeah.
child still.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's just like luck of the draw. I think that like as young people it's sort of like, okay, well, since I do this, then I should go to this college over there because that's the good college for this. And then they get there and like either they hate it or they like the city or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah.
and then nothing that they imagined even comes true. Like it's a whole nother world of beautiful things that come true. But, you know,
you discover yourself as you grow up, as you get that courage to
Mhm.
maybe get out of the house, venture across the world,
Yep.
etc. Like traveling. It's but it takes time. It takes time.
Exactly. Exactly.
So speaking of which, you moved to NYC after college, which
Yes.
still super young. How do
Yeah.
you where did you find that courage to move across the country because you're from California?
Yeah. Well, the thing was that I came out to my parents and it didn't go over well. And right then, I was working for a nonprofit here. It was an artist-run organization um, that was basically a communist sort of organizing around with the artists, with arts. And so I had been doing events out here in LA, and I got asked to do some work in New York. It was around an international campaign for a political prisoner named Mumia Abu Jamal. And so I went over there and for a couple of months just to kind of see what it was going to be like and work the thing. And I had every intention on coming back to LA, but then things weren't good still, and I just felt like, you know what, I don't want to go back home. And so I just stayed in New York for like I've been in New York on and off for 10 years, but that first chapter, so to speak, was like for 4 years.
Wow. So, I mean, that takes a lot of courage at a young age. It didn't
I don't know if it takes a lot of courage or if it was like me trying to escape my
I
reality.
mean, yeah, that too. It could be. And speaking of a form of of escapism, I feel like the whole entertainment industry can double as like a form of escapism.
Mhm.
When was it that your interest in the entertainment industry peaked? Whether it was like a movie, a TV show, a theater show, what caused it to peak and what caused you to be
You
interested
know,
in
I was always interested in acting and doing stuff. Like I like performing. I think I was drawn to the industry at a young age because of the money.
it?
And because, in theater, it's not, it's theater. You're not going to
Oh
make a lot of money. So I was more interested in that. And so I did the, uh, I did the, um, like, I showcased for managers and agents as a young person, but like I was at that time super gender nonconforming. There were not even classes for queer people. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of like all the managers were like, we don't know what to do with you. We don't know how to pitch you. And and it wasn't like saying that I wasn't talented. Like they were like fully like, you're talented. It's just we don't know what to do. And so I what happened? I think it was in 2000. Yeah, it was 2013 that I was like, you know what? I want to go back to LA and see if I can crack this nut. And around that time, I had booked um, an HBO show,
Ooh.
and so then I just kind of was like, yeah, this seems like the right time.
And you've built up quite the credits on IMDb over
I've
the
been
years.
trying. I've been trying, but it's not like I have anything like, that's the true money maker. You know what I'm saying? But I keep trying. I keep trying.
But yeah, but still, it feels like I saw a lot of shorts listed on there. So it feels like if you want something to happen, you're like, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to like find a role for myself. I'm going to keep pursuing until I get it. It sounds like from what I saw on your IMDb profile, it feels like you never give up, which
Yeah, well, I've been consistently working, but it's like, wanting like again, the it's a game, right? The
it,
industry is a game. Like a lot of theater artists who are doing like theater and they love live performance have to see like sometimes are like, well, where can I like sustain myself, And so in that regard, I do want to be, of course, I want to be attached to really incredible projects, but I'm also okay being attached to mediocre projects if it's going to give me some money. You know what I'm saying? Just being real here. Because I believe, like, I'm like, when I got to LA, I think I was writing down like actor, writer, comic. And I was like, this is not necessarily all of what I am, but like, this is the game, this is the industry. And yet, like I was just like I kind of believed the hype for a little bit, and I was like, this is not who I am anymore. Is it like I'm much more than this? And then like finally I was like, you're an artist. You're just an overall artist, and my joy and my anchor is in live performance and the stuff that I create, and that's a game. You know what I'm saying? So um, while I want to play the game for a specific reason, it's not the thing that um, is like at the front of my heart. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like you're a good example of you don't put yourself in a box.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and even if a project is like mediocre in your mind, there's always going to be that person who's like, this is the best project I've ever seen. And it's also still experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Still
Absolutely.
experience. So I want to get into more of your life later, but I want to talk about your show at Kirk Douglas Theater right now.
Huh?
It is called To Tea or Not to Tea, and you have written other shows and performed in other solo shows
Mm-hmm.
about your life.
Yes.
What is this current show about at Kirk Douglas Theater, and why was Kirk Douglas Theater the place for this show?
Yeah. I had mounted, so I took the piece for a workshop to Dixon Place in New York City. Then I brought it to the LA LGBT Center, which it's the David Valentini Theater there. And then CTG saw it, and they do this programming at called Block Party.
Yeah.
It's over the summer, and it's remounts of LA playwrights, I believe. I think so. Anyway, so I two people advocated for my piece to be part of the Block Party, and here we are. And the show is about so it's the second in a trilogy, and the first being a show about my journey with my mother, but also my personal journey into queer adulthood, when, especially when rites of passages aren't given to queer people, and then how do queer people sort of become who they are, and like what's the roadmap, you know? There is none, you know. So we have to this all the lessons I learned in trying to create a roadmap for myself. So the second show is about it's to tea or not to tea, to take testosterone or not, but it is on a deeper level about the question is, what does beautiful masculinity look like in a toxic masculine world? And it's not just about like what kind of masculine person do I want to be. It's also tracking like where I learned masculinity, and so this one follows the journey of me and my father.
Oh, so I want to ask, because you said that your parents at first, when you came out, didn't take it the best way. So did that relationship kind of rekindle, and when?
Yeah. um yeah, we are good now. We are good now. And I think that um you know thank God for growth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So I think that there was growth on their side, there's growth on my side, and so we there was work put in.
yes,
There's
between,
probably more work on my side, but there was work put in.
but they were like, we want to understand
Yeah.
and we want to
Uh,
support. They wouldn't support
They
you.
weren't really like that. It was me going, y'all have to know this.
Hey, and they came around and they support you. Oh,
They
hopefully.
do. They do.
Okay, good, good. Well, I'm impressed with the fact that you have multiple shows, solo shows about yourself, that you've written multiple shows about yourself for a stage
Mhm.
and you perform these shows live in front of people. How hard is it to grab a pen and a paper or your computer nowadays and be like, hey, I'm going to write a show about me for the stage and share my life story with other people?
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of solo artists who are like, you know what, I want to do a solo show, and then it's like there's like a desire to share talent, but possibly the story might not necessarily be like issue related. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it's because of my lineage, not culturally only, but like also like coming from queer and trans artists of color who are like my mentors and my teachers, that the work must like be deeply vulnerable and also um, allow for points of reflection for community to engage in. And so with that being the rubric in which the pieces get created, I um, it's it's not hard to pick up the pen to write the stuff because I'm living life and creating material constantly, so that every time, like, I could just go back and look at my stuff and then put it in. But carving the story is always a collaborative effort. I do that with my longtime collaborator, Adelina Anthony. We've been working for over 16 years together. And she helps me make pieces better, you know?
Mhm.
And and so while I might come with the kernel of an idea, I can talk to her about it. Then we get to a bigger nut of an idea, and then I go back and I script it, and then we dramaturg it from there, you know. And it's a process that can be painful because life is painful, but it's not like the act of writing is a tedious thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I I mean, and also how beautiful is it to have someone so supportive who helps you like, hey, maybe we should try this instead of this in the script or in the show.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's true. I
It's
think
really
that as theater artists, we all need to know that nothing happens without community and collaborators.
it's very true. It's very true. And as I always say, like understudy swings amazing like in these live theater shows. I don't know. Do you like musical theater?
I'm not the biggest fan, but I will go and check them out. Like
Oh,
I don't have like the tapes, like the
yeah.
tape, the stuff playing on Spotify in my house. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't lip sync to them when I go karaoke. You know what I'm saying?
You,
Or not lip sync, but you know what I'm talking about. So but I just saw this incredible play called Interstate, and
ooh,
it was at East West Players, and it is by Kit Yan and Melissa Lee, and that music was pretty banging.
I know about that theater company. I think I have a lot of people that I know personally who work with them multiple times a year.
Yeah,
So I can imagine that it'd be a really good
yeah, it
show.
was great. It was great.
So I want to get back to your work.
Yeah.
Why is it important for you? Because it looks, when I read about your show, it seems like you try to present your life story in a very lighthearted way.
Hmm.
Why is that important for you to present, like, even maybe the harder times in a lighthearted way for people.
Yeah. Actually, it's not light-hearted, I wouldn't say. It's that there's a lot of comedy in it, but there's a lot of comedy even with the hard shit. So can I say
Yeah,
shit? Okay.
yeah, that yeah.
Um and and so I always say to folks, like, if you're coming to see the show, then it's gonna be like super you're gonna have a good time, of course. But if I'm giving you these high highs, you're gonna have to also go scuba diving with me, you know?
Yeah. You're gonna have to go on the roller coaster ride.
Exactly.
Yes. So how would you convince people to come see your show at the Kirk Douglas Theater where it runs through July 10th right now?
Yeah, I would say, you know, you go. I feel like people, you're gonna have a good time. You're just gonna have a good time. You're gonna have a lot of fun. You're gonna laugh a lot. You're gonna think I'm redunculous, and you know, it's gonna be a good time. And it's gonna be There's gonna be moments for you to reflect on your own life through my story. Um, I might be a trans person of color, but I think like just last night, this white woman was in the audience and she was like, you know, I'm not queer, I'm not of color, and I got so much from this.
Mm.
And she loved it, So, even no matter who you are, you're going to get something from it.
And I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm like listening to you talk and I'm like about to full on sob because I mean I'm even getting something out of this interview right now from listening to you
Word.
talk about your show. So, what advice would you give to young trans storytellers like you?
I would say that your story matters and that you're not the problem. And the more stories we have out there by different trans folks, the better our world becomes.
Yes. I
And I
mean,
would say, don't be afraid to go deep.
yes. I mean, representation is so important in this world. And I feel like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like there's more and more every day. How do
Hmm.
you, th- I mean, why do you think representation is important? And how do you think it's improved in the past, I don't know, 5, 10 years?
Yeah. I would say that it's been over the past 5 to 8 years, maybe. But but there's been a lot happening, of course,
Okay.
with racial reckonings and stuff like that over the past 2 years. So like representation, people doing stuff about representation is happening a lot quicker because of pandemic and these reckonings and all this, all the madness of the injustices on Black lives and trans lives and women's bodies and et cetera, et cetera. So um, I I know that if I was a young person and I saw positive representation of trans people when I was growing up, it would have been a different journey for me. But so much of what queer and trans people battle every day is this internalized shame and um, not just like listening to the world tell them repeatedly you don't belong here. So I you know I was fortunate enough to be able to make a career out of my work that then I could be representation for other people. But even now, when I like, things have changed, they have indeed, and there's still more work to be done.
Always. There's
So
always, I mean, I feel like there's always going to be more work to be done,
yeah.
no matter how far we get. What
Mhm.
can allies do to help elevate trans voices or queer voices even?
Yeah, I think that sometimes allies need to just kind of go, is this a moment that I need to step out of the way? Or is this a moment that I need to support somebody? If you're an ally, sometimes being an ally means stepping out of the way, or sometimes it means stepping up. And, I'm an ally to other communities too. Like I'm an ally to women's communities, to non-binary communities, to gender non-conforming communities. And though some people would still say that I am gender non-conforming, but I don't know. I get read as male in the world. But um, I have to constantly ask myself these questions like, is this where I step out of the way or is this where I step up for somebody? And I think that allies in the industries, whether that's theater or any sort of art realm, have to kind of be like, okay, well, who's in this room right now? Who's not being represented? I think all allies, we need to do that constantly. Like, who's not here? Who needs to be here? You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's so beautiful to see representation on my TV screen and like in some of my favorite shows even that I
Mm-hmm.
watch, like some young adult shows even nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like I feel like if you go back and watch like Gilmore Girls maybe, which love Gilmore Girls, but there might not be that level of representation in those
Yeah.
shows,
Yeah.
the same as there are today in young adult shows. So I want to ask because I'm super curious and it's something I'm not really educated on.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about pronouns and I want to talk about in particular. So your pronouns are he, they.
Mm-hmm.
When is it okay to use he for someone as opposed to when do people who have he, they, she, they pronouns want you to use they?
Yeah, I think that for most people, like if you say like I go by these pronouns like he, they, or she, that means that you can call them by any of those three. For me, if somebody like I think that my mother and father are the only people in this world who still say she to about me, and at this point I can't battle them anymore.
And you're just like,
Um,
okay,
yeah, I'm
whatever.
right. um but uh what is like it's interchangeable. Like somebody can call me like, hey, yeah, that's Dilo, he does this. uh oh, you wanted to talk to them? Okay, let me ask them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just super curious because I have some people in my life who use like she they
Mm-hmm.
or and I was like I've asked a friend multiple times who doesn't know either who was like I don't know, but like you should look it up and like see. So I wanted to ask you firsthand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, thank you. So what do you wish people knew about you?
Mm. That I'm a good guy.
Yes.
Yeah. And that I make dope art. I
I mean, I feel like you're like I don't know, I feel like you're a very happy person and you spread like cheer and joy. I
hope
get that
so.
vibe from you.
Yeah. I might be dark in my mind by myself, but I think that I try and spread a lot of cheer.
Yeah, I watched I was researching you last night. I was watching some YouTube interviews and I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's so joyful and he's so happy."
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's what I got from those interviews. What do you wish more people knew about the trans community?
That we're just regular ass people. We're boring too, you know? Not many of us, but yeah, that we're like just regular ass people. Like not that big of a difference or deal. We all have our shit and yeah.
I mean, I don't think you're boring. I don't think people are boring in general. People
True,
are
true,
very
true.
entertaining.
But I think that I think that some people kind of see trans people as sort of like these odd animals, and I'm like, we might be unicorns, but we're not odd. Like we're just, you know what I'm saying? We're just like trying to live our lives without getting bashed or killed. You know,
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think
normal shit.
everyone wants to be a unicorn is so like unicorns like best way.
Hmm.
I've been obsessed with them since childhood, since Harry
Right.
Potter. But that's a different story.
Right.
No, yeah, yeah, I love unicorns. So I want to get back. I want to ask a little like a random question. If you
Mhm.
had to choose between stand up comedy and doing a solo theater show, What would you choose?
Ooh, that is a hard one. Okay, this is what I'll say. I would like to do a solo stand-up show. How about that?
Ooh, okay.
Like just like a special.
Would you like to like tour a solo stand-up show eventually and like take it to all
I,
different
I
places?
have, I have, I tour a stand-up show right now. It's like it's got a little bit of storytelling and stand-up.
Okay.
So I've been touring that for forever, and that has changed, and it has different things. I do it on the university college circuit or festival
Cool.
circuit or whatever. But I love stand-up, but I also love storytelling. I think that like even doing the show at the Kirk Douglas, like it is a beautiful show, but it takes a lot of people and a lot of work to make it be and look the way that it does. And so because of the tedious nature of that beast,
Yeah.
I would prefer to just kind of be like, okay, it's just me, myself, and I, and a mic. I can rock a crowd.
Do anything. Yes. Is it fun to, because I'm sure you've taken your shows to places where maybe the community in the city is like less accepting? Is it cool to take your show to those places and to like kind of share your story and share who you are and
Yeah,
share like educate people?
yeah, I would say so. There's times where I've done shows where it's been like, um, walking in and worrying about my life. And then there's been times where I've done shows where I'm like performing in front of people who I know have voted against my communities. But I feel like generally, I mean, like, thank the Lords I've been safe. I think that sometimes you even get people who are like, they would call themselves liberal or even progressive, and they come and see the show and they still get their worlds rocked because they haven't been thinking on a sort of multi-lensed in a multi-lensed capacity, right? So it's important to hear from people who are on the margins or whose voices we don't often hear because it helps us and gives us perspective on like our own lives.
Yes, for sure. And what is on your current bucket list?
My current bucket list. I want some experiences. So I would like to do like, you know, I would like to like artistically, I would like to put on like have a touring special. Um and make money is a big thing. And then there's like things that I just want to experience like with my friends and my family. um I would like to go on vacation.
Where's your dream vacation?
Oh, there's no dream vacation. It's just give me a nice warm beach and a beer, and I will be the happiest puppy. Yeah. So I want to travel, but I also like, so much of my growth is dependent on like the people who I have in my life that are very close. And sometimes, especially in these apocalyptic times, we forget that we need to hold our beloveds closer to us. Sometimes we get kind of isolated and like siloed. We silo ourselves off, right? And that's actually what kills us quicker. And so finding the time, making the time for our beloved peoples is like one of the most important things. And I feel it even more because I'm doing the show and I get to see certain people at the show, but then I don't get to really interact with them a whole lot. And so I just think about that. Like I just want to be with my peoples.
Yeah, social interaction is very important and something we take for granted,
Absolutely.
I feel like. I feel like some network needs to like give you like your own show
Th-
and
That can
to
make it
do
happen for me.
I'm gonna manifest this because I know,
Okay. I'm all about manifesting. Let's do it.
fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Some
Yeah.
network contact you and be
Yeah.
like, we want you to have your own show on our network because the inspiration you have to offer the world.
Mm,
I mean, it's true. How do
thank
you
you.
work on self-confidence in this industry, this world?
Oh my God. That's a great question. I think for me, whenever I'm battling with self confidence or self esteem issues, I kind of had to pull myself back and go, like, nobody knows why we're on this planet.
True.
And shit is so shitty. Like, why are we trying to shit on ourselves? You know what I'm saying? So I have to start there and then go, what's important here? Who's important? And so self confidence, stuff like that, also is contingent upon us looking at our own lives and being like, what am I feeling right now that has been fed to me from the outside world about me, right? So then breaking that down and then going, okay, who in my life thinks that I'm just the absolute shit, like in a good way, like they just love the fuck out of me, right? And then seeking those people and sitting with them and being like, I'm having some problems thinking about myself in a positive way. Can you remind me who I am?
So well said. Where can people follow you on social media to keep up
Yes.
with what you're doing?
My handle for everything is DLoco Kid. That's DLOCOKID, DLoco Kid. And that's also my website, dlocokid.com.
Amazing. And I'll put the links in the description and everywhere this is posted. And do you have anything you want to talk about, promote that I missed?
No, I don't. I mean, I think that everything is in, like, all the upcomings and this, that, and the other are in my website and my bio or my Instagrams or whatever. But I just had a great time talking with you, Becca, and you're so fun and so great, and I can't wait for you to see the show and get some like Delo energy coming your
Yeah.
way, and so grateful for your time.
Thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.